Hello once again, and welcome back to Meisterhau Theatre. Funding from Meisterhau Theatre is provided by Rocket City HEMA and by fencers like you. Happy listening. It has once again become that time of year when the cold winds blow in from the north and we all shudder inside, mostly due to the coronavirus, but also because of the holiday chill. Today, we shall be filling our hearts with the wonderful tidings of our Victorian past, when people were repressed, there was nothing to do, and there were many ill children. A great time to be a horror writer. So, here we have our collection of Victorian Christmas ghost stories, edited by Miss Tara Moore. We shall be reading a select one from this novel, but before we get to that, I would also like to introduce the fine Tullamore Dew that I shall be polishing off this evening, utilizing my brand new W-engraved snifter. That's a fine sniff. Today's story is brought to us by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and it takes place up in the frigid Arctic wastes. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle served for a brief time on a whaling vessel as a surgeon, and it gave him a good appreciation for not only the art itself, but he described it as a coming-of-age moment. Some important clarification for some of the words and vocabulary we'll be going over. Bairn, meaning a toddler in Scotch English. Whale. Whale will be generally referred to as a fish in this context, so anytime the word fish is used, generally you can assume that it is a whale. Whales are also measured due to the length of their whalebone, as opposed to overall length. This should clear up any confusion that might arise. So, let us begin. The Captain of the Pole Star by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Being an extract from the journal of John McAllister Ray, student of medicine, kept by him during the 6 months' voyage to the Arctic seas of the steam whaler Pole Star of Dundee, Captain Nicholas Craigie. September 11th, latitude 81 degrees north, longitude 2 degrees east. Still lying to amid enormous ice fields, the one which stretches away to the north of us and to which our ice anchor is attached, cannot be smaller than an English county. To the right and left, unbroken sheets extend to the horizon. This morning, the mate reported that there were signs of pack ice to the southward. Should this form of sufficient thickness to bar our return, we shall be in a position of danger, as the food, I hear, is already running somewhat short. It is late in the season, and the nights are beginning to reappear. This morning, I saw a star twinkling just over the foreyard. This, since the beginning of May, is the first. There is considerable discontent among the crew, many of whom are anxious to get back home to be in time for the herring season, when labor always commands a high price upon the Scotch coast. As yet, their displeasure is only signified by sullen countenances and black looks. But I heard from the second mate this afternoon that they contemplated sending a deputation to the captain to explain their grievance. I much doubt how he will receive it, as he is a man of fierce temper, and very sensitive about anything approaching to infringement of his rights. I shall venture after dinner to say a few words to him upon the subject. I have always found that he will tolerate from me what would resent from any other member of the crew. Amsterdam Island, at the northwest corner of Spitsbergen, is visible upon our starboard quarter, a rugged line of volcanic rocks intersected by white seams, which represent glaciers. It is curious to think that at the present moment there is probably no human being nearer to us than the Danish settlements in the south of Greenland, a good 900 miles as the crow flies. A captain takes a great responsibility upon himself when he risks his vessel under such circumstances. No whaler has ever remained in these latitudes till so advanced a period of the year. 9 p.m. I have spoken to Captain Craigie, and though the result has been hardly satisfactory, I am bound to say that he listened to what I have to say very quietly and even deferentially. When I had finished, he put on an air of iron determination, which I have frequently observed upon his face, and paced rapidly backward and forward across the narrow cabin for some minutes. At first, I feared that I had seriously offended him, but he dispelled the idea by sitting down again and putting his hand upon my arm with a gesture which almost amounted to a caress. There was a depth of tenderness, too, in his wild, dark eyes which surprised me considerably. "Look here, Doctor," he said. "I'm very sorry I ever took you. I am indeed, and I would give £50 this minute to see you standing safe upon the Dundee Quay. It's hit or miss with me this time. There are fish to the north of us. How dare you shake your head, sir, when I tell you I saw them blowing on the masthead?" This sudden burst of fury, though it was not conscious of having shown any signs of doubt. 22 fish in as many minutes as I am a living man, and not one under 10 foot. Now, Doctor, do you think I can leave the country when there is only one infernal strip of ice between me and my fortune? If it came on to blow from the north tomorrow, we could fill the ship and be away before the frost could catch us. If it came on to blow from the south, well, I suppose the men are paid for risking their lives, and as for myself, it matters but little to me, for I have more to bind me to the other world than to this one. I confess that I am sorry for you, though. I wish I had old Angus Tate, who was with me on the last voyage, for he was a man that would never be missed, and you said once that you were engaged, did you not?" "Yes," I answered, snapping the spring of the locket which hung from my watch chain and holding up the little vignette of Flora. "Blast you!" he yelled, springing out of his seat, with his very beard bristling with passion. "What is your happiness to me? What have I to do with her, that you must dangle her photograph before my eyes?" I almost thought that he was about to strike me in the frenzy of his rage, but with another imprecation he dashed open the door of the cabin and rushed out upon the deck, leaving me considerably astonished at his extraordinary violence. It is the first time that he has ever shown me anything but courtesy and kindness. I can hear him pacing excitedly up and down overhead as I write these very lines. I should like to give a sketch of the character of this man, but it seems presumptuous to attempt such a thing upon paper when the idea in my own mind is at best a vague and uncertain one. Several times I have thought that I grasped the clue which might explain it, but only to be disappointed by his presenting himself in a somewhat new light, which would all upset my conclusions. It may be that no human eye but my own shall ever rest upon these lines, yet, as a psychological study, I shall attempt to leave some record of Captain Nicholas Craigie. A man's outer case generally gives some indication of the soul within. The captain is tall and well-informed, with dark, handsome face, and a curious way of twitching his limbs, which may arise from nervousness, or simply be an outcome of his excessive energy. His jaw and whole cast of countenance is manly and resolute, but the eyes are the distinctive feature of his face. They are of the very darkest hazel, bright and eager, with a singular mixture of recklessness in their expression, and of something else which I have sometimes thought was more allied with horror than any other emotion. Generally, the former predominated, but on occasions, and more particularly when he was thoughtfully inclined, the look of fear would spread and deepen until it imparted a new character on his whole countenance. It is in these times that he is most subject to a temporary fit of anger, and he seems to be aware of it, for I have known him to lock himself up so that no one might approach him until his dark hour was past, and he sleeps badly, and I have heard him shouting during the night, but his room is some little distance from mine, and I could never distinguish the words which he said. This is one phase of his character, and the most disagreeable one. It is only through my close association with him, thrown together as we are day after day, that I have observed it. Otherwise, he is an agreeable companion, well-read and entertaining, and as gallant a seaman as ever trod the deck. I shall not easily forget the way in which he handled the ship when we were caught by a gale among the loose ice at the beginning of April. I have never seen him so cheerful, even hilarious, as he was that night. as he paced backwards and forwards upon the bridge amid the flashing of lightning and the howling of wind. He has told me several times the thought of death was pleasant once to him, which is a sad thing for a young man to say. He cannot be much more than 30, though his hair and mustache are already slightly grizzled. Some great sorrow must have overtaken him and blighted his whole life. Perhaps I should be the same if I lost my Flora. God knows. I think if it were not for her that I should care very little whether the wind blew from the north or from the south tomorrow. There, I can hear him come down the companion, and he has locked himself in his room, which shows that he is still in an amiable mood. And so to bed, as old Pepys would say, for the candle is burning down. We have to use them now since the nights are closing in, and the steward has turned in, so there are no hopes of another one. September 12th. Calm, clear day, and still lying in the time position. The wind there comes in from the southeast, but it is very slight. Captain is in a better humor. He apologized to me at breakfast for his rudeness. He still looks somewhat distrait, however, and retains a wild look in his eyes, which in a Highlander would mean that he was fey. At least so our chief engineer remarked to me. He has some reputation among the Celtic portion of our crew as a seer and expounder of omens. It is strange that the superstition should have obtained such a mastery over this hard-headed and practical race of men. I could not have believed to what extent it has carried had I not observed it for myself. We have had a perfect epidemic of it on this voyage, until